Next, let's look at a slightly more challenging example of completing the square. It's more challenging because we've got a number other than 1 in front of the x squared. First thing we're going to do in a problem like this is we're going to divide that number. Okay, so that makes x squared minus 5x equals, this 17 over 4 needs to go to the other side, so negative 17 over 4. Okay, so that's step one. We kind of make it look like the other example that we just did. We have a 1 in front of the x squared, we've got the x's by themselves, we've got the non-x thing on the other side, so it's set up now. Now we're going to add to both sides half of this number squared. Let's see that kind of as scratch work out in the margin. Half of negative 5 is negative 5 halves, and we're going to square that. So if I square that, seeing it over there makes it a little bit easier to see where I'm getting this number is 25 fourths. Okay, the factoring of this is going to be x minus 5 halves squared. Conveniently, the number I use here is always just the number I've got here. Okay, so it makes it a little bit easier even when dealing with fractions. On this side, we go ahead and add these together. Negative 17 and 25 is 8, so we have 8 fourths, which is 2. From here, we'll take the square root of both sides, giving me x minus 5 halves equals plus minus square root of 2. I'm going to add 5 halves to both sides, and so we get x equals 5 halves plus minus square root of 2. Oops. The final technique after factoring, square roots, completing the square, graphing, is what we call the quadratic formula. Quadratic formula is nice because it can solve any quadratic equation. However, the technique involved for developing this formula is completing the square. Now I might go over this a little more in depth in class, so I'm not going to talk you through all these steps. Okay, quadratic formula is down here at the very end, and you have no doubt seen it before. It's not new information here. Let me lift this up so you can see it a little bit better. There's the quadratic formula right there at the bottom. Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, all divided by 2a. Let's use that in the next example. When using the quadratic formula, the first thing you have to make sure of is that all terms are on the same side of the equal sign. This 2 needs to come over to the left-hand side, so the equation becomes 3x squared minus x minus 2 equals 0. Now our quadratic formula, I'll just rewrite it from the last slide. Negative b plus minus square root of b squared minus 4ac, all divided by 2a. The a's and b's and c's are going to be replaced with the numbers here in this equation. The a is 3, b is negative 1, c is negative 2. Just A, then B, then C, in that order if we've got the terms in order. So we're just going to drop these three numbers into the variables respective of their position in the formula, and then we'll start working through order of operations from there. So we've got x equals negative 1 plus minus the square root negative 1 squared minus 4 times 3 times negative 2, all over 2 times 3. So let's clean this up. Okay, 1 plus minus square root of 1 plus 24 over 6. So we get 1 plus minus square root of 25 over 6. I'll come over here to finish. Get 1 plus minus 5 over 6. And now we work out the plus and the minus. 1 plus 5 divided by 6 is 1. 1 minus 5 divided by 6 reduces to negative 2/3. Let's finish this lesson with a couple of graphing examples. This example says solving equations graphically with a calculator. So here I'm going to start with the y equals. We want x raised to the 3rd plus x minus 4. I'm just going to graph the equation. I'm going to zoom standard. And I'm looking for where this graph crosses the x-axis. It only crosses once. So I have one solution. Calculate 0. I want to put the cursor on the left side, which it already is. Move it to the right side somewhere. Hit enter on the guess, and that's my answer. I'm going to use 3 decimal places, so I have 1.379. And that's finished. In this final example, I want to show you one more technique with the graphing calculator. It says solve by finding intersections with the calculator. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in the left side of the equation. Absolute value x minus 2. I'm going to type in the right side of the equation. So I'm using 2 separate y equals. Okay, I've got the left side and the right side typed in. I'm going to hit zoom standard, and so there's the first one, there's the second one. Notice I've got intersection points. Okay, let me zoom in on just those intersection points. I'm going to zoom box so I don't see the whole graph. How about up there? I think this will make it a little bit easier to see. I'm going to box in on that. So there's the first one, second one. I want to know where these 2 graphs intersect. Where do they cross each other? Okay, so to do that, we're going to hit second calc, just like before, but instead of picking 0, we're going to pick intersect. So I've got a little cursor again. Notice this time it just says first curve. If I press up or down arrow, it'll jump to the second curve. Notice the cursor jumped. It still says first curve on bottom, but it has jumped. So I want to be on the first curve, and what I'm going to do is just put the cursor as close as I can to where they cross and hit enter. Second curve, I'm going to be as close as I can, and notice it's already pretty close. Just going to hit enter again. When it says guess, I'm going to hit enter again. And that's my solution point, or that's my intersection point, 5, 3. The solution is the x value, x equals 5. Now let's find the other one. I'm going to do the same steps. Second, calc, intersect. I'm going to trace all the way over here. And really, once we get close, like that's pretty close, notice when I hit enter the first time, jumps to the second curve, it just places the cursor right on top of the first one. So I just hit enter again, There's my other point, -1, 3. The x value is the solution.